The stream is live. I'm giving it a few extra seconds because I've noticed recently it seems to need that before it actually picks up. But I think the stream is live. Is it actually streaming? It is. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Adventure on so many levels. We're going to play some Dungeons and Dragons.
Woo!
I am Christiana Ellis, the Dungeon Master. Yes, my voice is better than last week, but maybe not quite 100%. We'll see how it goes over the course of the adventure. Our players tonight, Starla Hodgson as Nirakina Ethu,
Greetings and salutations.
Jenny Meltzer as Cadence of the Water,
Hello.
Mark Kilfoyle as Alaric Copperbeard.
Welcome to man level.
That's a video joke for you audio listeners. We are sadly lacking a Viv Schubert and a James Meltzer tonight. We will expect to have our Chooch Schubert show up a little bit later to play as Otterkey, but it was time for the adventure to start. An adventure waits for no tiefling, or so I hear. So let's talk a little bit about what you guys, the heroes of legend, have been up to recently. What's going on? What's going on with you guys?
Something about bees.
Three
Some
times.
pets wandering through
threes.
woods.
We do everything 3 times.
Yeah, make most of the mistakes 3 times.
3 times. Yep.
Have 3 times as much trouble.
Mm-hmm.
We killed some dragons last week.
Technically, they mostly killed themselves.
We helped.
We kind of made sure we were out of the way.
Starvation probably mostly killed them.
They were really just tired.
Yeah.
Kind of fell asleep and then died.
And then we had to MacGyver some dragon breath.
Which
That's
was
right.
pretty awesome.
Yeah.
You definitely discovered that this strange crystal that had enchanted these dragons seemed to respond almost like it was being charged up when exposed to the dragon's breath. And you, having only exposed it to one of the dragon's breath prior to all 3 of them being dead, had to figure out another way to get other 2 dragons' breath in there, but you did. So now you are in the possession of a 1 foot by 1 foot long by like 6 inches around crystal that is currently glowing with a swirl of green, red, and black energy charged up. The rest of the treasure that was at the center of this little shrine proved to not be terribly valuable. It was a little bit glamored to make it look fancier than it was. But you defeated those dragons, the latest in the strange set of tasks set before you, and then continued your journey towards where you expect to find the Thriae hive. And as you traveled, you made your way out of this endless swamp. And then as you reached the threshold of the next band of daylight, you saw at the top of a mountain, shining in the dawn sunlight, an enormous, what looks like an enormous beehive. And it is, in fact, the hive that Nira had scryed upon previously. So then you miraculously leveled up overnight. Ding!
Oh, yeah.
Yay.
Forgot about that.
That was a good sleep, you guys. I feel really, really powerful now.
And in fact, as you kind of emerge from this sort of forest, and it opens up a little bit, leading up into some hills that will eventually lead up to this mountaintop, there is actually a road.
How convenient.
I don't trust it. Maybe we should take the hard way, as usual. I'm kidding.
I
Mostly.
don't know. I don't trust you with your crazy ideas. Hey, Nira, do you still hear weird sounds in your head?
What?
Do you still hear those weird sounds from the sending?
Oh, I don't. Do
Yeah.
I? Did that stop yet? I forget
That
about
it
that.
stopped eventually. It went on a long time, but you were eventually able to tune it out. You suspect that the several hours worth of droning intonation was the very slowed down return of your message spell sent. Which you don't get much information from it, but you did glean that the two adventurers that you all rescued from the Feywild by banishing them back to the prime material plane at least arrived alive,
Or
or
at least one of them did.
at least the one that you messaged did. Yeah.
No, that cut out, but still have a bit of a headache.
Sorry. So do we take this road then?
Well, I mean, this whole thing is very contrived anyway, so I don't think there would be any point to not taking the road.
What do you mean contrived?
We talked about this last time, don't you remember?
Mm.
Yesterday, before we went to sleep, we talked about
It was a
it.
really good sleep.
That's true.
This whole route, this whole little quest we've been on, all of it seems very curated and encapsulated, kind of pushing us along this one particular path to encounter these particular things and avoid others.
Yeah.
There's something.
Amethyst pipes up that, yeah, that's definitely what she's been feeling.
There's something about that is a thread I can't pull. It's like everything in the Feywild is I don't know how to say it. It's sort of like it's all made of magic, but it's not exactly magic. It's something different. It's everything is alive, or everything has a purpose. That's not it either. It's when you said it's moving us along. I don't know. There's something about that just it sticks in my mind. It's like when you're a kid. Well, I don't know if everybody had that experience, but one of the things that I used to do was hang around bars. That's not exactly what I meant to say. More pubs where there would be an entertainer there, and the entertainer would have stories that they would tell. Maybe they had a puppet show, or they could do something with shadows, or they could at least just tell us a story. And they always kind of didn't really make sense, but they made sense in the context of what was happening. But they had, a pathway, and there would always be kids, sometimes me, who would just yell out things at the entertainer, like, well, what if they did this? And the entertainer said, well, they didn't do that. Sometimes they got pretty angry at that, actually. But it kind of feels like that. And there was a sense, too, kind of when the hag was talking to us at the book about her wanting to say something, almost like this whole thing you said was contrived. It kind of makes sense to me. Like, it isn't really about the journey so much as it is about the story of the journey. Does that make any sense? Like, she can't tell us something directly. Nothing in this land seems to do anything directly.
You just said something that gave me an interesting idea. What if the reason we're doing this is to get back Grandmother Praxis's memories?
Her
What
songs.
Yeah. Like, what if something happened to her and she wants to get it back? And she can't do it herself. That's why she's sending us. I mean, we were, a little blasé about it, like, oh, nobody does anything for themselves, but maybe that's why.
I've heard in some of those stories things like curses, where you're cursed to walk the land until a certain thing happens, or cursed to to never lie or something. I mean, she could have gotten cursed, maybe, and part of the curse was she couldn't tell anybody about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a weird thought. I don't know if it's right at all, but something in that, like I said, like a thread that I can't quite pull.
Nero, you were going to say something. I saw it in your face.
Well, just in dealing with highly powerful entities, whether that's spirits or Fae Queens, they have a very different way of communicating. It's not, I think for them, figuring out what it is they've told you is almost like a little reward in itself. Like they don't want to just give it to you. You need to work for whatever it is.
You got to find the cheese.
Hmm.
Isn't that what you said, Amethyst? There was something about cheese. No, I got it. I remember. It was you had to chase for the cheese, but it wasn't the cheese that was obvious. It was the other cheese. Was that right? Yeah. No, I got it. I remember. It was you were being forced, but at the same time you were being rewarded. There's something else that comes to mind too. And I don't know why I didn't think of it earlier. I guess it's just this place drives all thoughts out of my head, but we're not experiencing time like we used to. Like literally over there about, well, I don't know, a long walk is last night. And up ahead of us, another long walk and it's pure day. Time doesn't work the same way here.
No, that's why we're here. I mean, it was a break from...
But more than that, the stolen moment is about time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was something to do with that queen wanting time somehow. Like she couldn't experience it normally, so she took a bit of time from the rest of the world and brought it for her own. I wonder if the reverse can be done. If we could steal time from here, in this place where time doesn't work the same way, and then stop the problem with no time. I don't even know if I'm making sense anymore, but it's like there's something right on the edge of what I can see in the shadows that are beyond the firelight, and I just can't make it out.
I mean, I kind of understand what you're saying, but also it's so different. I mean, I don't know if it would work.
I don't know either. And then there's the other place. Like this place is time in a different structure altogether, but the astral plane, no time passes, not relative to where we were. And yet we experience things, so some kind of time passes.
Well, within the astral sea, time passes, but there's nothing changes is the difference. So whereas time is passing in the astral sea, it is also passing like on the material plane. But on the material plane, things would be changing, like getting older or being worn down, whereas on the astral sea, that doesn't happen.
Well, we didn't get hungry and we didn't sleep much, but we killed a thing, and that doesn't exist anymore.
Quick question. Are you guys having this conversation walking, or are you still standing on the edge of the forest?
I think we're still standing on the edge of the road because we're
Yeah.
The road has
going to walk on it.
it's provoked philosophy.
Okay, I was just trying to get.
I know what
get
this
that
is.
sense.
This is the road to nowhere. And this is a philosophical argument. I don't know. For some reason, seeing a road here made me think that everything else needed to be re-examined. This is the only sort of sure thing in a way, but at the same time, everything has been a sure thing.
Amethyst will kind of speak up a little bit and say, you mentioned the cheese earlier, but I feel like the cheese wasn't a reward so much as it was just like a symbol of what I wanted. But the point I think she was trying to make was how I got it. When I tried to just run to it, the cat she would catch me as the cat. But I had to act like a mouse, sneaking around in the corners in the walls.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Do you think we have to be bees?
Or maybe we don't take the direct approach, like don't follow the road.
Maybe.
Or maybe make our own choices and do something unexpected, which is frankly usually what we do anyway.
Well, I would just like to point out that we tried to make that whole dragon issue very complicated when the initial feeling that I had about it was actually the right way to go, and so I don't know. The obvious direction with the dragon situation was kind of the
What?
correct answer to it.
Amethyst can turn us into things. What if when we go there, she turns us all into bees? I mean, that would solve a lot of problems. We wouldn't have the problem with the buzzing wouldn't be so bad because we would be bees.
That doesn't mean it wouldn't still affect us, though.
It might even fall under the thrall of the queens even more. After all, they control
True.
bees, don't they? So what's an opposite of a bee then? A bear?
So yeah, I think this is just making it more complicated.
It's just a thought.
No, I agree, but I just
What about a
I
bat?
I feel like making it more complicated than it needs to be is just sort of a waste of energy.
But that's what we always do.
But we're generally not presented with situations that are as straightforward as this little quest has been.
Straightforward.
Well, that doesn't mean that we have to understand why we are doing things, but there is a path that was laid before us and we followed it.
Yeah, Amethyst says, "It's right there." And she gestures to the road, and just the same gesture goes straight up from the road to where you can see the hive at the mountaintop.
It seems too straightforward. I don't trust it.
Well, I mean, if you look at what we're doing, it's pretty ridiculous. So I think we should probably just walk on the road because we got to get there anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, if we stand around and analyze the road forever, we're just going to be standing on the road forever.
Speaking of that, what kind of road is it? What's it made out of?
It's a dirt road. It's just sort of, it's clearly what might have once just been an animal trail that has just been extended over time and just regularly traveled to make it like a dirt road. That's what it looks like. You certainly
So
don't see any other signs of regular travel, though.
I wonder how many others have been sent on the same trip.
Does it matter?
If
Maybe
they
we're
all
the only
failed.
ones.
Just from the reaction that the queen we met at the gala had, I don't get the impression this is like some people do seek this out, but I didn't get the impression it was super common or super well known about. So, yeah, we're probably not the first, but like that's a really well worn path, and that seems unlikely unless someone
Wants
carved
us,
that out on purpose, you know?
wants us to go there.
Oh well. I don't know if I know any more than when I started, but it was an interesting thought. Shall we?
Let's.
You proceed up the road, I presume?
No, completely not.
We go back in the woods.
Well, I mean, it's
I'm
up,
just
it's
being
up
a
to
jerk.
you guys. I'm just saying, I would be interested to see though, like, given that this road obviously goes between where you are now and the place you're trying to go, that if you were wanting to not take the road, what would that actually mean?
I mean, I could just like
Yeah, you can fly.
fly
We
around
know. We
and
know you can fly.
and technically not take the road, but
I could like scout us a whole nother path, but
What does it look like off to the sides of the road? What
It's
is,
so it's coming out of so the swamp had transitioned into kind of a marshy forest, which gradually became more and more solid. But what you have done now is exit from forest into what looks a little bit more like grasslands leading up into foothills. So it's not too dense in terms of trees, but you're clearly going up into the hills, and there's a taller peak, further in that direction where you see the hive on top.
are there flowers here?
Uh, you want to look around for some flowers?
I just, he would be looking around going, I figured there'd be more flowers where there are bees.
There are, in fact, flowers. I'm just saying that it's not like the flowers are a dominant part of the landscape, but there are
Yeah.
flowers in the way that you would expect there to be flowers.
I guess I just expected more flowers. Don't bees like flowers? Isn't that how that goes?
well, yeah, but I mean, we don't know how many bees are going to be there.
Well, at least 3.
Maybe there'll be more flowers when we get there.
It's true. I'll keep an eye out for it. 10 more feet.
Activate flower sense. You detect all flowers within a 60-foot radius if they're not behind total cover, and
I'm
It
pretty sure that's
lasts
one of
for
Amethyst's
10
powers.
minutes.
and you can tell whether they are native species or invasive.
I'm pretty sure that's what commune with nature does. I'm pretty sure that
Detect flowers.
Detect flowers. Yeah.
summon flower.
Amethyst can do like speak with plants and stuff, right?
Mhm.
If she's got it prepared. I think the staff of Linamara does that too.
Yeah. Let me pull up her sheet.
It might be speak with animals. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I
It
know
can
that's
do
a
some of that.
specific thing that she has equipped because that's what she did when she talked to the bee last time. Was speak with
Yeah.
animals.
I believe that her staff can do some of that at will. Let me double check though. All right. The staff gives her speak with animals. Speak with plants is a higher level spell, but she does also have that. The staff of the woodlands. Her staff of Linamara. Speak with animals is 1 charge. Speak with plants is 3 charges from her staff.
Yeah, I just wonder if like we should prepare some kind of offering in advance of
A
going up
tribute.
there.
I mean, what do you want to take them like a bonsai tree or something?
Well, they don't generally have pollen, do they?
I don't know.
Well, Amethyst reminds you that she has this. She still has this strange token that
Right.
the horned woman, whom you believe to be Grandmother Praxis, left behind. That technically, to use its magical properties, requires attunement, but she is not attuned to it.
I mean, does somebody I can't attune to anything else?
Yeah, also full. I think all of us are full up.
Yeah.
I can't remember what the like. I think what did that thing do? Like it had like where you could control bees or something. Right?
Yeah, so it can do animal friendship. It can do clairvoyance for any region where there's bees or a hive within a certain radius. You can summon giant insects or do insect plague. Um, but one of the other things about it that made you guys a little hesitant was just knowing that, strictly speaking, those are usually granted to specific subjects of an Ebial queen, and that if you are using it without sort of permission, that might not be looked upon kindly by the queen in question. But you don't really know where it came from or anything like that.
Well, maybe we could offer that token.
Right? Give
Like-
it back to them.
Yeah, like returning it unused. I don't know. It's a chooch.
It's Chooch. Welcome, Chooch.
We
Can
found
you
a
not hear
road.
us?
Yeah. We're trying to decide if we should walk on it. That's all.
We made it 10 feet.
Yeah.
No sound for me. No sound for me. What's
Okay.
going on?
We hear you.
No.
Boo hoo.
All right.
Guess I really blew another stealth roll.
Oh no.
I'm gonna try to reboot. Sorry. If you can hear it.
Yeah.
Oh wait, or is it this?
Yeah. So, as
not
you
that.
guys
Okay. You are back.
start traveling on the road here, you're making your way. You're having some of this conversation on as you travel. Cadence, you have generally been taking the front as you guys have traveled across the Feywild, just due to your sort of natural, your skills in navigating natural terrain. One thing you notice as you are continuing up this road is that the further you go, the more there is kind of an obvious rut in the road. And it's really kind of perfectly sized for people to kind of walk through in it, single file, meaning that as the rut sort of becomes obvious, it's by far the easiest place to walk on the road. Right? It's, it's stable there, whereas everywhere else, it's a little uneven around it. And you're noticing that, and wouldn't necessarily think anything of it, except that as you continue going, it's getting like deeper and deeper, almost to the point where it's starting to, we lost Cadence right in the middle of me doing a Cadence thing. Hopefully we can,
Oh no!
They're dropping like flies.
Yes.
Watch out.
Oh,
Duck.
no.
Duck.
yes,
Oh, my.
Cadence mysteriously disappears from the party. Hopefully,
That rat went really deep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really. She gets so fascinated
Yeah.
by these ruts that she fell in one.
So hopefully
Ruh-roh.
we can get Jenny back here in a second. But in the meantime,
Oh, her computer crashed.
Oh,
She'll be right back. She sent me a
Okay.
Facebook message and I just saw it. So
that happens sometimes. Okay, well, gosh, then.
Have you seen Cadence? I think she's gone. Wait, where's Haruki? Damn it,
No,
Amethyst. Oh, crap,
So
it's happening.
literally, what I was about to say is the others don't seem to notice anything strange. So, but in the meantime, like certainly, you guys are having this conversation, and I think that you are utterly absorbed in it. Like you are focused on the task ahead, and the road is easy travel. So it's not like when you're going through the swamp where you're constantly having to watch where you put your feet and pull your boots out and not lose them to the mud or anything. It's actually kind of a relief, even though you're going uphill a little bit. You're kind of just walking in a straight line. The road is easy. By contrast, compared to that swamp, the weather is much cooler. There's kind of a fresh breeze coming through. There's kind of a crispness to the air here. It's honestly a much more pleasant region to travel through.
I mean, I notice, but I'm pretty sure that Nirakina's feet haven't touched the ground for several days.
Have you been just flying everywhere, Nira?
through the swamp definitely, but maybe not so much like it's just a road. It's pretty easy, so there's not really a lot of point to.
Welcome back, Chooch. Do you hear us this time?
Take two, all working.
Do you hear us?
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right, we hear you.
Yeah.
So we just lost Jenny too, so to a computer crash.
Oh,
so
no.
hopefully she's coming back soon. We basically have you guys walking up a road to the big
10
Thriae
feet.
hive. Yeah, there was a lot of
Sensible thing to
discussion
do.
before
Cursed
starting.
road, clearly.
Yeah, the road goes ever on and on. So do the conversation. But you guys,
Be the first of three.
yeah. So this is this traveling through this, along this road is definitely pleasant compared to through the swamp or the marsh or anything, and it really leaves you able to focus on just what you expect that you might find up ahead. You know, you find your thoughts naturally drifting towards just the promise of what lies ahead. What do you think you will find there? What do you hope to find there? What do you fear you will find there? All of you find your thoughts kind of naturally drifting in that direction.
One other thing too. We're traveling into day, right? So it's getting brighter and brighter as we walk.
Yes, in fact, so you're kind of
Oh,
through
yeah.
early light, and what you can see above you, just like how the peaks of mountains are kind of the first things to be sort of fully illuminated. It is the hive on this mountain peak that is like fully in sunlight. You guys are sort of in early dawn light traveling up in that direction.
So do these mountains look steep?
Not so much. So the peak where you see this hive, you're not sure. It doesn't look extremely steep, but you suspect that if the road does not continue all the way there, it's possible portions of that mountain could require climbing gear. But also the road seems to be very conveniently located, so maybe that'll just take you where you need to go.
I mean, a flying elf with a hook on a rope would probably do pretty well too.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay.
So, Otterkey, the road. Any thoughts?
Road less traveled.
Actually looked kind of well traveled, really.
No, I really don't. Sorry, I can't really help.
That's all right. I'm just saying that. So each of you are really finding your thoughts dwelling on what do you think you will find there.
Right.
Well, Nira
Oh, I
is
can-
still very disturbed by the whole like being put to sleep thing because that's not a thing she has ever experienced before. And while it's like normal and natural for most people, it's not like it's not a state that she's used to, and it was very, very disturbing. So that's weighing pretty heavily on her mind. She does not want that to happen again.
Stands to reason.
All Archie can picture is like person-sized bee queens having a literal tea party. And that sounds pretty pleasant compared to everything else we've been through. So he's kind of optimistic about this.
Him, Queen Beyonce. What do you think? What's the buzz?
I think Alaric is kind of staring at the mountain a little bit. It's been a while since he's seen a proper mountain. It isn't floating in space. It isn't crushed. It isn't, a lot of things. To see an actual mountain again is kind of getting me a little bit nostalgic. I'm also wondering if dwarves have ever passed through this mountain before.
I mean, I think that your people, at least as far as you remember, don't really have a lot of Feywild stories. Like it's not just a big part of your culture. I think in some ways it I would imagine some of that is not that there's any reason a dwarf couldn't go to the Feywild, but I wonder if it's maybe it just feels a little bit like something that other people do or like just stories.
I think we're all pretty a little too well grounded, maybe.
Maybe it's partly, do you think it's partly that there's an element of fear in it? Like you feel secure underground, like you're somehow protected from strangeness like that?
I mean, stone is predictable. It's regular. You'll find some surprises in it, but those are the good kind. Everything here is full of the wrong kind of surprise.
Surprises like having your little camera icon in the right places.
I knew that was going to happen. I
Yeah,
knew it as
and-
soon as you moved it. She was going to get back.
Welcome back, Jenny.
Sorry, my computer just completely died. Chooch was like, "I'm gonna reboot," and my computer was
no.
like, "Bye."
That sounds like a
Well,
great idea.
That's all right. I mean, obviously these things happen. So, but welcome back. It was awkward timing because I was just going into how this rut in the road seems to be getting deeper and deeper to the point where it's almost like starting to become like this tiny narrow canyon where like the sides of the rut are literally rising up above the heads of your head. And I think as you are seeing it, how do you feel about that, noting that this rut seems to be like so dramatic that it's like literally carving into the hillside?
That's creepy. That's a little weird. I don't like it when nature does that because it's not natural.
Behind you, your friends are just kind of talking about what they expect to find at the hive. They don't seem to have commented on it at all.
Do you guys even see this? I mean, look at this. This is crazy.
They don't react to you, like they didn't even hear you.
Guys, what are you doing? Come on, look at this. This is so weird.
They seem to be just utterly absorbed in their conversation.
What is happening right now? This is so bizarre. Nero.
She is like turned around, floating around, looking back at Alaric.
I start to walk towards them.
Okay. You find that you go right through them.
Well, this is not good. I look around to see if there is anyone else around. Like, are there any weird figures like huddled in the trees or?
Are you like climbing up out of the rut?
Yes.
Okay.
Like I'll start to climb up.
Sure. You can do so without difficulty, although certainly you see the rest of your party kind of just like continuing on, seemingly unaware of what you're dealing with here. But as you reach the top, you look over, and just off the side of this road, you see what looks like a little fenced-in pasture. And in it seem to be some sort of a fluffy, maybe like a sheep-like creature, but from this distance you can't quite tell exactly what they are. And there is a humanoid figure in sort of torn brown robes standing at the fence and just looking into the pasture. They're back to you.
Hey,
They're a ways off. They're like maybe like 120 feet away.
all right. I'll start. I mean, no one can see me, so I guess I'll split the party. Split myself from the party.
Sure, why not?
Yeah, it's always a good idea. So I'll start walking towards the figure in the
Okay.
pasture.
So as you do, you realize looking into this pasture that the creatures, they're not quite sheep, although they do have sort of a big woolly fur, but there's some sort of a weird like a woolly rabbit, but like the size of maybe a large dog. Almost a little bit like Almirage, like Arwen, but not. There's no horn and a very sort of sheep-like woolly fur, and they're hopping around. They're actually very cute, but they're hopping around kind of aimlessly. But the closer you get, the more you realize that like every time you like look around this pasture or blink, you feel like there's more and more of them. And as you watch, it's like this herd is multiplying by the second. And you can see all the greenery in this pasture is just starting to disappear, being grazed on by all of these creatures. And you see that this humanoid figure by the side has got their arms folded and is just like supervising this.
Hey, what's going on here?
They turn to you. Here's a quick question. Just remind me. Did you actually meet this horned woman already, Cadence, or you just only heard about her? I can't remember if you
I
saw her or
think
not.
I've only heard about her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what you see certainly matches the description you've heard. This is a woman who's kind of an ugly face. She's also like maybe 7 feet tall, but she's got horns, sort of orangish skin, and her eyes glow like fire. But she just looks over at you and just says, "What do you think the problem is?" And she
I
gestures
have
back
no
at the
idea.
pasture, and you see that basically the food is almost gone, and these creatures are just multiplying so dramatically that they're like there's hardly any even room for them to move around in.
They're obviously breeding way too fast. I mean, you can't have that many animals in like this small of a pasture.
So, what would your suggestion be?
Called a herd.
Oh,
I
well,
mean, you can't have that many.
how
That's too
how
many. I mean,
how should we cull the herd?
sell some of them off or something.
Well, let's say that's not an option right now.
Probably have to, use some of them to provide food, or are they edible creatures? I don't. Do I know anything about these creatures?
Uh, so if you're asking, like you've never seen a creature like this before, but certainly just looking at them, they seem to be some sort of a like large but rodent-like creature. But they're just basically hopping around like bunnies, except sort of forlornly now because there's no food left.
I mean, you might want to make some stew or something. There's too many of them.
Oh, so perhaps this little system needs a predator.
Mm-hmm.
Would you say?
Yeah, definitely. There's too many. I mean, that happens sometimes with deer, they overrun everything and then they eat all the food and there's too many and people hit them with their carts. It's ridiculous.
So the woman waves her hand, and then all of a sudden, from in the center of this, you start to hear sort of a snarling sound, and then a lot of these creatures start sort of panicking and sort of trying to spread away from the center, where you see what looks like sort of a horrific direwolf-looking creature with weird sort of spines, almost like a porcupine sticking out from its back, and it First, there's one, but it seems like just emerging from nowhere, several others come, and they are just starting to tear these little creatures to shreds. And the rest of them are panicking and stampeding around and sometimes crushing each other.
You have to have balance. You can't just throw like 7 of them in there. I mean, you need balance.
Oh, that's an excellent point, an excellent suggestion. How would you define balance?
Well, I mean, first of all, they're like in a pasture, they're sort of walled in. You can't just throw a predator in. I mean, they should be wild. You can't have that many.
Well, if we opened the pasture, they would just fill the rest of the world and it would be the same situation.
But there are predators in the rest of the world. They
There are
wouldn't be
predators in
walled
there
in.
now.
But there's too many. I mean, they're all walled in. I mean, the world is vast and big. They would have places. Some of them could hide. Some of them could run away. So they could provide that balance. But here, they're all in this small space and they can't escape. And they're here with the predator.
So you think that balance is simply defined by how much space there is?
No, I mean, there are a lot of factors, but right
You
now,
saw
that's
how
a
fast these
huge
things
factor.
bred. If I let them out of this fence, they would have eaten the entire hillside in minutes.
But you would let them out with predators too, right?
Well, what if the predators start eating all of the other things outside? If they're not balanced inside the fence, why would they be balanced outside the fence?
That's a good question. You have a lot of good questions. I think that you can't control this kind of situation. As much as you want to, you can't control it.
Her eyes kind of flare up a little bit and she leans in and says, some people want to control. They want it to be orderly. They want it like this, and waves a hand, and all of a sudden the entire pasture now consists of tiny little pens where every single animal is separated from the others because they're all in just a tiny little pen that is barely big enough for them to move around in. The animals are all separated from each other. The predators are no longer able to terrorize the prey. The prey are no longer able to breed out of control. They're all trapped in their own tiny little containers.
So now they will just die off.
Well, but that would be controlled, wouldn't it?
No. I mean, that's too much control. There is a such thing as too much control. You can't control everything.
Well, let's say then that leaving it completely controlled like this, not to anybody's tastes. Well, some perhaps, but not mine, not yours. So let's remove the pens. She waves her hand and the pens are gone, but now it's just back to the chaotic, like, stampeding around of the predators and the prey running around in there, and it's just a mess. And saying, if we were to open the fence, this chaos would be everywhere. But how is this pen different than the others?
The world is not a pen. I mean,
Isn't it?
no. Wow. That's making me think of so many things. Like the tree and how people travel between it. And if we just
Really?
let people do whatever they want, then it would be crazy.
She has this like delighted look on her face, and then she kind of like does like a playful punch in your shoulder that actually kind of hurts. But it's clear from her body language that she's trying to be like playful. But she just says, "Ah, I should have come to you first." More of that.
I mean, I understand why there are restrictions on it, but who gets to decide who those restrictions, like what those restrictions are? Like, who gets to make that choice? That's the problem. Like, who gets to
Yes,
decide where all the rabbits go?
indeed. Who gets to decide? Let me ask one question related to that. What if there is only one person capable of deciding? Does that mean that they get to?
I mean, there it gets really touchy because who decides that person is capable? How do we know they're really capable? I mean, so anybody could come along and say, I'm the only one who could do it.
What if you are the only one who could do it? Let's say I have now granted you the deed to this pasture, and she hands you a piece of paper that just falls into ashes as soon as you touch it. It says, it is now your decision what to do with this pasture. You are the only one capable of making decisions for these animals.
That's a lot of weight. That's a lot for one person to carry.
I should add that you see over there, and she points at basically where out of nowhere there's now a crowd of mysterious shadowy figures all standing there grumbling angrily and with their arms folded, and you can't really get a good look at any of them, but it's very clear that there's, you know, it's like if a crowd of people could be a thundercloud, is what you see over there. And she says, they have all got opinions about what decisions you make.
Well, opinions are, everybody has one. That doesn't make them valid. That doesn't make them the right thing to choose. Just because someone opines doesn't have to affect your choices and your decisions.
Well, what if one of them came over and told you that if you didn't run your pasture the way they want you to, they'll kill you?
Then, I mean, I would probably have to kill them. I would probably have to fight them. I mean, running a pasture is very serious business.
It's true. It's true. A lot of people don't understand these things.
But
When
one
you
person, like something that vast, I don't think it should fall on just one person.
How many then? It's your decision to decide that as well.
I mean, how many pastures are there? I, there are like an infinite number. And everybody is gonna want to have to say what happens in their pasture. Who can come there? What they do there? Whether or not they even open their pasture to let people in. It's a lot.
The prey animals in this pasture, if you asked them, do you think that their opinion would be the right way to run their pasture? If you gave them what they asked for, do you think that that would produce the ideal result?
No, because
What?
they would be just like they would end up like the weird bunny creatures, they would eat up all the food and then they would have nothing. It would be chaos. They would be eating each other.
What about the predator animals? If you asked their opinion, do you think
It
that
would
would
be the
produce?
same.
Well,
They would eat up all the bunnies, and then, they would run out of food, and they would turn on each other.
yes. Well, it seems as though you have created a situation where the predators and the prey will hate each other forever.
Well, maybe, but they don't have to love each other to live the circle of life. I mean, that's what that is. The predators have to eat the prey. That's all there is to it.
Well, I'll give you a little forewarning here that I'm with you. I think that you have arrived at the solution and position that I personally think is appropriate, but I will warn you, people will try to kill you for it. It has happened before. It will happen again.
Yeah.
And I thought you should know.
Well, I
Tell your
appreciate
friends.
that.
And then she kind of nudges you backwards, and you feel like you're falling into the rut of this road. But then as you land on your back, you realize you've basically just stumbled on a flat road, and your friends almost trip over you because you've just fallen on your back in the front of them.
Wow.
I didn't actually know you could fall over. I thought that was a cat thing.
I usually don't.
I'm
But-
going to offer her a hand up. You okay?
I was just with a really strange old woman,
When?
literally just right now.
Okay, well that does
That
happen.
fairy business.
That does happen.
Yeah. She showed me something very interesting. And I tell them like what happened and about the discussion that we had.
Well, that's the kind of the most straightforward metaphor she's used yet.
It was pretty easy to figure out what she was talking about once I stepped back and put it into perspective.
So you got the choice, though. What happens?
I don't know. I mean, we just both tend to agree that it's a risky thing.
Yeah.
And it's
Although, I
really,
mean, I
like,
think the inhabitants should have some say of how things happen, but,
Well, but they're always going to be biased about their own side.
Sure.
As well, they should be. I mean, they are
Sure.
representing their own interest. Doesn't mean they can't think of someone else's, though.
Exactly.
I mean, there will definitely be people who will welcome, travelers, trade, things like that.
But I think it takes a special kind of person to be able to take all sides of the equation into account.
I think you're talking about gods there. It's about the only thing I can think of that's that powerful or has that kind of view.
No,
You're not a god, are you? I don't really know as much about you as
mean-
I'd like, but
I don't really remember my childhood, so it's possible.
maybe you didn't actually have one. You just spontaneously became.
The only other person who might know the answer isn't here, and I look at my cat paper.
It shows Ket like on his knees doing the "we're not worthy" vow. We're not worthy.
I mean, he seems to support the idea that I may be a god. I don't know.
Well, he does seem a little biased, which seems about right.
That is true. I don't know. It's just something that when you step back and think about it, really who has the right to dictate how the tree gets used? Who has that power
Who
and
chooses the
why?
road? Who chooses the road? Does the road have tolls? Is the road maintained? Are those things
People who
necessary?
know how the road works.
Right. There are costs associated.
Hmm.
Sometimes people will seize the road and take it over. We've already seen that happen, or at least attempted. Better to have a free road. It might be the only decision which actually is fair to everybody, except maybe the road, but I'm not sure the road gets a
Yeah, but
choice.
then you have people breaking the road because they don't know how to use it.
Then you teach them, or you guide them,
Exactly.
you
That's,
protect them, but you don't stop them.
yeah, I agree. I think
I
it's
mean,
really important that the tree is restored. Don't you guys think it's really weird that like everything is so bizarrely connected? Everything.
I kind of thought that's what the way the tree worked, is it
No,
connects all
and
things.
I mean all of this stuff. It like we were talking about stolen moments and then the tree, and it's just so weird. Sometimes it overwhelms me how bizarre it all is.
I mean, I can go back to my theory that started at the beginning of this road, that it actually is all connected by something more powerful than us at this point.
Mm.
At this point, how about everybody give me a perception check?
Man. Ooh, nice.
It's terrible.
29.
Or
14.
yeah, that's terrible, Aller.
28.
Yeah. So 28 and a 29 and a 4. 16. Both Nira and Cadence notice a sound in the air. It sounds like the buzzing of an insect's wings, but big and at kind of a distance. I think, assuming that you do the reasonable, obvious thing and glance in that direction, you do see what looks like two of the obules, these humanoid bee people, both with lances. Two of them flying in your direction. They're currently quite a ways off, but they do seem to be heading your way.
Looks like we're gonna have company.
So what do? Do we hide? Do we
No.
confront them? Do we attack them?
Plug our ears.
Why don't we wait and see what they have to say?
Yeah.
I mean, they might be coming with an invitation. They might want to kill us. We'll decide when they get here.
So we're giving up our choice to them then.
No, we're making the choice to find out what they want. That's the choice.
Yeah. We're gonna be normal people, right?
When have we ever been normal
That's
people?
possible.
Think just on the off chance, I am going to have silence at the ready just in case.
Oh yeah, and with my level up, my aura's changed a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make a note of it for everybody to remember. So all of my auras are now 30 feet.
Okay.
And the 3 auras that are always on, as long as I'm conscious, everybody gets a +4 to all saving throws. Nobody can be frightened. And everybody has resistance to damage from spells.
Nice.
Cool.
Almost like
Which I
level
find a
18
little
characters
difficult to interpret, but
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, spell effects, spell.
Would that be like
but
spell
yeah.
effects or like
Yeah,
spell attacks? Or...
some of those get a little weird, I mean, I think by
Right.
and large, if it is the way that's written, I would say if it is damage caused by a spell, it is resistance to damage from spells.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that sounds to me like straightforward. But we may need to litigate
Right.
that if it comes to it. But
Yeah.
in the meantime, are you guys doing anything else as these things approach? You have time to, take a couple of actions if you feel that's warranted.
Is
I'm
the
gonna
road
stand next to Archie.
30 feet's pretty big, but yeah. Also, you got that shield.
I
Is
really
this
like your
actually-
armor.
is this actually a deep rut that
No,
Katie saw? or
that
it's
that
not?
was an illusion of some kind.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's no cover by the roads because it's rolling fields.
Mm-hmm.
Damn.
Just like relaxed posture, let them come.
Anything
Yeah.
but relaxed.
You have to try. I mean, if they come at us and we're all like ready to fight, they're gonna think that we're coming to hurt them, and they're queens. I mean, they're probably soldiers coming to protect their queens right off the bat. So
All right.
Hmm.
Start running through my spell ideas in my head.
So, you just let them approach then?
sure.
Yeah.
Does anybody have a spell to let us understand what they're saying?
Tongues. Does anybody have tongues?
I do not have it equipped.
What
They
about the
approach
gadget?
to within about 60 feet, and they're still flying up in the air. But one of them calls out in Sylvan, which I know Nira speaks at least, right?
Yeah, so does Amethyst, but
Yeah, right.
She's not speaking.
Calls out in Sylvan and says, "Who goes there?"
Well, I suppose I will answer. Be the one do the talking. Okay. We are a party that seeks to speak with the Thriae.
Remain where you are. We will come to you. There will be no hostilities unless you initiate them, at which point we will defend ourselves.
Understood. We mean no harm.
What did they say? What did they say?
Sound like a threat. I think it was a threat.
It was not
I
a
take
threat.
out my bow.
Calm
I was pretty. That was
down.
way too pretty for a threat.
They're coming closer. They just wanted to know what we wanted. I told them that we were here to speak with the Thriae. That's it.
Are we? Is that it?
They,
Is that our
they
plan?
won't fight unless they have to defend themselves. So just
Ah, that's reasonable. Okay.
All right.
It's a great start, really. I mean,
They do fly down. Their wings definitely give off a notable drone, but you don't feel any sort of a magical effect from it at present. You hear the sound of their wings, but you don't find yourselves falling asleep or anything. But they sort of fly down. They do have their lances kind of at the ready, but they're not brandishing them at you or anything like that. And they land, about 10 feet in front of you and just survey all of you and say, "What business do you have with the Thriae?"
are they still speaking in Sylvan or are they
Yes,
speaking in
Sylvan.
Common? Would you by chance speak Common so that my companions could all understand?
They look at each other, and then one of them says, "I speak common small mount."
Kind of.
Did he just call me a small mount?
I'll kind of look at everybody. It's like they don't speak very much Common.
oh,
Are you
well,
guys okay with me just?
Yeah.
I mean, did they
You-
speak any other languages? Like, did they speak Elvish? I say that to them in Elvish.
The one says, "I hear common
What?
better
Huh?
than speak it."
Huh.
So
No.
they can understand.
I mean,
what-
I'm fine if you just want to go for it. I mean, you know what's where we're at.
You
Sure.
know, talking good, real good.
Whatever.
Well, I'm just going to go for the honest approach here.
Yeah.
Try not to
So
sound clueless.
I'll speak in Sylvan just because they're more comfortable that way. We were sent. A person gave us a message of sorts that led us on this path to visit with the Thriae. My understanding is her name carries some weight and can be unpleasant to be spoken about.
They've got just these implacable humanoid insect faces.
Such a beautiful language, man.
In a very complicated prophecy-like rhyme, grandmother Praxis alluded to us coming here and seeking to acquire a bit of the honey from the Thriae.
They don't seem surprised. They do briefly whisper to each other, and you realize they're actually speaking something other than Sylvan to each other that seems to be all sort of buzzes, perhaps their own specific language. But the one that had been speaking to you then does turn back and says, "The honey is what brings most guests here. Most do not come seeking it under the auspices of that name. You will not be denied entry, but we would let you know that most who come seeking the honey leave disappointed for one reason or another."
That's understood, and we would appreciate the opportunity to try.
All of you traveled together?
We do.
Do you seek the honey for a purpose beyond direction from this figure?
The message we were given was that it could be used to restore lost songs, and one of our companions has lost the ability to sing. Our hope was that maybe this could help him.
They start buzzing to each other kind of almost immediately upon that lost the ability to sing part. Then they turn back to you and say, "We will escort you to the hive perimeter. There are instructions that are for your safety. I would ask that you share them with all your friends.
Absolutely.
Tell them, when in the hive, do not speak above a whisper. Do not make loud sounds. Do not attempt to deceive, prevaricate, or lie about anything. And
I feel like I should be translating this as he's speaking it, because
Sure.
otherwise I'm going to forget.
All right. I mean, you can sort of, I mean, unless you feel like
Right.
the translation would be an issue. But
No.
they say, and last of all, most important, for this is the true reason many leave disappointed. Do not ask questions of the Thriae unless you are prepared to hear the true answer. Many
Did you
believe they are prepared, but they are not."
So, just because there was a little bit of a cutout there, I think you said, "Do not ask questions of the Thriae if you're not prepared to accept the truth."
Yes.
Is that it?
Yes.
Okay. Right.
Many believe they are prepared, but are mistaken.
All right. So I have relayed all of that. I feel like I don't need to repeat it.
Yeah.
So be very quiet, always tell the truth, and yeah, the stuff about don't ask questions unless you're prepared for the answer.
What a strange bunch of rules.
It's for our safety.
Is it?
We're the visitors here. I have no reason to expect that they've told us anything but the truth.
It'd be convenient if they could lie and we couldn't.
Insight check.
Well, I mean, you can make an insight check
I mean,
There
at
is lie.
disadvantage
Given-
because they are bug people and you don't actually understand their language.
Yeah.
given what the Thriae produce, honey, that lets you see the truth in all things. You know, I feel like it's
Yeah.
just going to be a given. There's not going to be much lying here.
You can make that insight check if you want, but it is at disadvantage for the reasons that I mentioned.
Is Nira lying?
It's near.
Well,
death.
I mean, I assume
I
you're
believe her.
insight checking.
Oh my god, I will take a picture of this. I rolled 2 natural 20s.
Seriously? Okay.
Yes.
Wow.
I will take a picture if you want me to.
No, I believe you. That's awesome. You might want to take a picture just because it's awesome,
Yeah.
but I believe you. You feel like you can see coming through the strange mannerisms and foreign language of these creatures and the emotion that they seem to have. They're attempting to stoically control the display of pity that they feel for you. They feel like you are heading to something that would be bad for you, but they would not deny you the ability to make that choice for yourselves.
Just imagine if they know the truth of all things, all these things we've been trying to figure out, they could answer that for us.
Do you really want to know all those things, though?
Yeah. It's been
You really
driving me
need to
mad.
think about it because they just said, like, you gotta make sure that that's what you want.
I'm not prepared for some of those truths. I never will be.
Yeah.
Just got to figure out the right questions to ask.
Are you
That was
ready
the
then?
hard part.
I'm ready.
I believe we're ready. Yes.
Probably as ready as I'll ever be.
Stay on this road. We will fly above. And they take off and they're sort of giving you police escort, so to speak.
We should practice being quiet now.
Otterkey?
Yeah, Archie.
Archie,
What?
you should probably not wear your armor, even though it's so awesome.
It's not particularly loud. It's just not particularly stealthy.
I think he's pretty loud in all of his armor. Any of armor. He's probably screaming loud.
I mean, that
standing there
last
naked.
time it was really my horns was the problem. It wasn't, but
At least you don't hang bells on them anymore.
Oh, that was a thing? Man, I
Very
missed all the
briefly.
good stuff.
It seemed to be.
I'll be good.
So, assuming that you continue on up the road, it's a ways to get there still. You are definitely a couple of hours on the road, just marching up it. But it does sort of switch back here and there, so you're never having to like actually climb so much as just march uphill. It's a strenuous hike, but you're never having to actually break out climbing gear or anything like that. Not having to use handholds, but definitely the equivalent of stairs in many places. But you find yourself making your way ever closer to this hive, and eventually you see that this building, which is it's the size of like the great hall of a large cathedral. This hive, and yet you don't see like a lot of windows here and there. There's a few places. There's one near the top, and there's some near the base where it sits on the hive on the mountaintop where you can see openings, but the road leads you straight to it. And as you approach the threshold, the two with the lances fly down and say, "We will not accompany you inside, but you will be given additional instructions in once you cross the threshold."
And I relay that what has just been said. So
We should thank them too.
thank you for the escort, and we will do our best to abide by the rules.
They kind of give you an elaborate like midair bow, and then they sort of buzz away out of sight.
Are they like humanoid size?
Yeah. They are essentially, anthropomorphic bee people. Appropriately sized.
Are we ready?
Yeah.
All right.
Don't really have a choice.
Remember, try not to speak above a whisper. No loud noises, and always speak the truth.
So you enter, and initially,
Okay. Now,
so this passageway is dark from the outside, but as your eyes kind of adjust moving in, you realize that it is a long tunnel that seems to have been made from some waxy substance, but that has hardened. And you find that there's something about the acoustics of this place that even just your footsteps seem to carry and resonate up and down the tunnel. And you can immediately sense that, loud voices would certainly, if the whole place is like this, you would imagine that, like, anyone speaking above a whisper could be heard from anywhere in the hive if all the tunnels are like this. But as you make your way through that initial passage, it briefly opens up into a small round area with a low ceiling that's maybe only about 7 feet tall, so high. So like it's not so much that you have to crouch, but it's definitely kind of a slightly claustrophobic room. And you do see that
Fine.
there's sitting within a little bit of a honeycomb-like cell. You see one of the Abil vassals, one of the sort of worker bee types, who looks at you and says, in Sylvan, "Were you given the appropriate warnings by the soldiers outside?"
So, whispering, of course, back in Sylvan, say, yes, we were.
This is an important question. Do you know what you are asking for?
So I'm going to turn to everyone else and say, this is an important question. This person would like to know if we are certain what we're asking for.
I mean, there's a couple of things on the list which are pretty certain, but still working on the list.
I'll turn back to the vassal.
Mm-hmm.
We are not entirely certain of what the substance can do. I was told to speak honestly, and so that is my answer.
This is wise. You may have come seeking the honey. You may have come seeking the Thriae's oracular powers. You may have come on an errand from another. But the answer to all three is the honey. But the honey is not anything you want. It is one thing. It has many powers that render it a powerful aid for those in combat. It is a panacea for many ailments. It is a potion which grants visions. It is a gift of priceless value. But you must decide which of these things it is before you will receive it.
I will relate all of that to our friends. I'm assuming Amethyst, since she can understand, would be helping me. So we need to decide which of those things it is that we're seeking it for. I assume it would be the ailment. I mean, we're seeking to restore lost songs, right?
Yeah.
Maybe if that's what it needs for Ket, then yeah. I mean, it could also be actual lost songs that no one else remembers, which would be more of the seeing things.
So perhaps we're hoping it is something that could restore what we've given away in trade, maybe?
You're asking that to this
To
vassal
the,
again?
the group. I want to be
Okay,
sure of the
okay.
answer
No, all right.
before.
Right.
Yeah.
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 Yes,
Yeah.
because I wonder if that is even something that it could restore.
Or something we want back.
Yes, we do want it back. Do you want to listen to knock knock jokes for the rest of your life, Alaric?
He might get better at them. Eventually.
I mean, it couldn't get worse.
Well,
It could.
All right, so turning back to the vassal again. Said, we were told that this honey could restore lost songs. Our friend, who is not with us, lost his ability to sing. It was given away in trade for something else, but our hope is that this might be a restorative for that purpose.
That is within the range of ailments that may be treated with the Thriae honey.
Then that is what we would seek it for.
Nira, ask the vassal if all of the benefits that it contains would be absorbed. Like, say, or if it's just that if you drink it for one specific purpose, it only has that purpose, or if the person were to drink it, they would, get their songs back, also have a bunch of weird visions or whatever. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Okay.
And so then asking that question, I would be, this substance, if taken, would it only affect the thing that we were hoping for, or would it cause all of these things that you've described to us?
The honey, in its most basic form, has many diverse but dilute properties. The Thriae can, upon request, create certain varieties which enhance the functioning of individual applications. If you have chosen the panacea option, the other effects will remain dilute but present.
So I will explain that to Cadence. So it can be used in that way, but all of the things that it can do would be much more watered down and not as effective.
The riddle spoke of a tea being made. Would we have enough for more than one to drink? If they wanted to.
And then back to the vassal. With this substance, would we be able to acquire some for more than one person? Or is it only enough for one?
We recommend following dosage instructions for best results. If you have brought the price for more than one dose, you may leave with more than one dose. But you will leave with only what you can pay for.
What is the cost? Or is that determined by the queens?
It is determined by the queens, but this is a established package, if you will, and the price is the eyes of 3 magic users, the stored breath of 3 dragons, and 3 preventable mortal deaths. I sense among you 1 preventable mortal death. Are you prepared to offer the additional 2?
Yeah. I'm going to kind of look at Amethyst, and I know what her answer would be. Kind of wish she was here because she would immediately say no. Okay. You know what? I'm going to translate what he said. Because I know what I'm comfortable with, but this is not only for me. So,
What the hell kind of system is that?
So we would have to kill the people that we saved?
Or another preventable death?
2 more.
What does that even mean? Death that was not unpreventable. Not
Yeah, who
inevitable.
has one?
Well, we accidentally let that one orc die. The half orc.
The 3 travelers that we met on the road. The other two, their lives would be forfeited
Oh,
if we say
right.
yes.
Well, we didn't
We
take.
don't know that it's them, but
But how did we claim that death? We had nothing to do with it.
because we didn't help them fast enough.
We didn't prevent it. I can't make this call myself because someone made a promise that they wouldn't keep things from other people. I could give him an answer, but it has to be something we all agree on. And I can't do that to you guys. So.
There are other things that can die, things that should die.
Yeah,
Could
but
be
we don't
prevented.
get to pick, I don't think.
Why not? They just said preventable deaths. I don't know if it matters whose. I don't even know what that really means, but I'm not talking about some random person on the street. And I'm not talking about the other two that we have helped. At least I thought we had. But there are bad people whose deaths could be prevented or not.
But we don't get to make the choice. All we get to say is yes or no in this situation.
I mean, we can come back.
I think Amethyst might say, do we know that?
We don't know much.
Well, in the broad scheme of things, it's 3 people, or 3 total, but two more people are going to die, whether or not, like, if we say yes, those 2 people are dead. Maybe not those 2 specific people that we met on the road, but, I mean, that seems likely.
I'm not okay with that.
Why would they ask for
Well,
such
it's
a
not
thing?
like we're murdering people. but-
Well, it kind of like is like that though. I mean,
Making
we're
it-
willingly choosing for someone to die so that we could have a reward. I'm not okay with that.
I mean, there are definitely some people I would kill for a reward, but that's not the same thing.
Yeah.
Why would they ask for something like that?
Because they can.
That's the price.
Why make that
Is-
price, though?
This is something that could be more valuable than mortal lives.
They shouldn't be able to ask for that kind of price,
No, they do.
but they shouldn't be able to.
They're the ones that make the product, so they get to say what it's worth.
What I'm saying is they shouldn't be able to make that demand. And maybe they should be prevented from making that demand of anyone else.
We're
But-
going to disagree on that.
I also
Should
said I
you
would
choose
not.
to act on those thoughts, I will not back you up.
I came here under a banner of peace, and I won't break that now, but I won't promise the future.
Well, I mean, personally, I feel like we came all this way for something that we're not going to get.
I can't.
I should
I
have
know.
just said yes.
I would have
Well,
instantly kicked you.
There is another way to
mean-
restore Cat. That dragon will pay for that.
We have to go there anyway.
And even if we didn't deal with the dragon in the way that we might want to, we still made a bargain to return and get those memories back.
I think Amethyst is going to pipe up and say, I think we're making a lot of assumptions about how this works when we could just ask.
I can't ask him.
What do you want me to ask?
What do they mean by preventable deaths, I guess? And are there any other options?
right? Then to the vassal is like, my companions have some hesitation regarding the preventable deaths.
That is understandable. It is frequently one of the most difficult ingredients to acquire, but it is, of course, critical for the proper properties of the honey.
So you're saying it's more than just payment, it's an ingredient?
That is correct.
All right, so I would like to translate that for my companions. So this goes beyond payment. This is an ingredient required for making the honey. It's not just this is what they decided on randomly. This is something that's required to make what we are after.
This makes it even worse, I think.
Yeah, no wonder they were here all by themselves. Like that.
Imagine the ones who would give it freely. Would give
But they
it
can't.
cause.
So
They can't. They have to have those to make it. So they couldn't just give it freely.
But those who would have no trouble with making this decision and gaining that power.
but I mean, it's not murder. Just not helping when you possibly could.
You turn your back.
Everybody seemed
starving
pretty
time.
good with it 3 days ago when it was a campfire and a hypothetical. Just because one of them died, we knew we could have been sending them to their death. Sorry. But, what has changed? What changed from 3 days in the last 3 days?
I agree
Everybody was
you,
fine with
Archie.
this 3 days ago.
No,
Archie.
we weren't
No.
fine with it 3 days ago. We had
We
sent
were.
them off with the hope of
Yeah. We tried to send them home. We tried to
I
help
thought
them.
we had to speak the truth here.
We are. I'm speaking the truth.
That's what I thought we were doing.
So
We
we,
tried
were
to help
joking
them.
and saying, haha, we probably just sent them all to their death. Haha, that's okay.
Gallows humor in a dangerous place like this.
Oh, I get that, yeah.
Those adventurers were in far, far over their heads, regardless. And we are not gods that can control everything. So I mean, regardless of what we do, it's entirely possible they're dead anyway.
But if we give them this, if we give the Thriae this price, then we are ensuring their death.
Then we know they're not dead because he said that there was only one. And we only know of one that is dead.
Unless he's referring to another death. Another preventable death.
If we decide to do that, then we are deciding to kill someone for something that we want. And
We're
that
just
is not
deciding-
okay.
We're just deciding to do nothing. We're not even there at the moment.
That is not nearly as
Well-
better as you might think.
No.
You see a person drowning and you do nothing. Does that not mean
Yeah,
that you
that
are
is
still
as good
responsible
as-
for their death?
We're standing
Yeah,
here
that's
saying,
as good as holding them underwater.
I mean, we're standing here saying to get what we want, it's okay for someone to die.
And we know we can get it another way.
Well, maybe we should look at it this way. There are only a very small group of people that can accomplish what we're setting out to do. We need every possible advantage because what we are attempting is so huge and the entirety of existence depends on it.
Zorath got to you so deeply. That is exactly the argument he would use, that the entire world could be sacrificed for his needs because he felt he had the best plan.
Ket getting his voice back is not. I mean, they're saying you'd have to pay the price more than once. More than once. To get more than one dispense of this. So you're looking at, just 8 more people get 3 doses?
We couldn't pay that anyway. All we have is the 3 eyes
I know.
and the crystal. And 1 death.
The
So,
vassal speaks up and says, I am sensing a great degree of consternation in your group. We have a waiting room where you may discuss further, and there is, of course, the ritual mechanics necessary should you choose to bind new individuals to your ritual.
There's a ritual to choose other individuals for this.
Indeed, the one death I sense among you was tied to you via ritual. However, performing the ritual on different individuals can bind their fates to this instead.
Yeah,
Might
we should
take-
probably talk.
Yeah. Might take you up on that, but I really should discuss it with my companions, so
Of course,
the waiting room would be nice.
gestures one of its, one of its many arms. Many, I guess there's 2 sets, right? But gestures off to one side, and you see that there's another sort of large honeycomb-like cell that you can enter in there. But there does seem to be areas that are sort of naturally like softer but not sticky, almost like beanbag chairs. And then in the center, there is a little platform that seems to have various components on it. There's like a small like incense burner and a candle and a piece of chalk.
All right. All right. So here's the thing, guys. He has just told me that a ritual can be performed to select 2 other individuals of our choosing.
Well, now that's better. Wait. They were bound to this with a ritual?
Someone chose them for us. I think we can probably guess who. But it's not all lost. If there are people that you think the world might be better off without,
Mm-hmm.
trying to think of.
Plenty of those.
There were a whole bunch of bandits in Villanocta. So, thoughts?
Zorath.
Try it.
I doubt he can be so easily dispensed of.
Oh, it'd just be an action. All right.
I don't know many of them by name. I know their names, though. There was the mine boss. Did he die in the mine?
I think
hard.
everybody there died.
It's hard to remember. That part is strangely hard to remember. If she lives, then I would nominate Jinxie.
She's dead.
Well, no, she was likely plain, but
Okay,
seems to
they
be demonic now. So
they specified mortal deaths, so I
Yeah.
don't think that would count.
I mean, technically, she died as a mortal once. I nominate her 3 times. But that would not be preventable because I'm going to make it happen anyway.
The vassal leans in and just says, I am getting the feeling that you do not actually know how to perform the ritual.
no,
We
they
don't.
really don't.
Just reaches in and hands you a pamphlet. and then
Is there
walks
soft
away.
jazz playing in this waiting room?
And the pamphlet is actually in common, and then on the backside it's in undercommon.
So you think you want people to die?
No, it's basically you look at it and it is actually does seem to be sort of a straightforward like ritual preparation instructions. But whoever's kind of looking at it, it's pretty straightforward. But what's clear is that it needs to be performed on someone who's physically present.
Oh. So this isn't just like somebody that we think of and they're gonna die.
No.
They have to be in the room with us.
You can send people away. Can you bring them here?
No. Well, I mean, in theory, I could, but I don't have the things prepared for it, and I could only do it once anyway. So
When we are done.
Or we just go out and find some assholes.
Bring them back with us.
Do we have to perform the thing here? I wasn't really looking too closely at it.
It wasn't performed. Well, we presume it wasn't performed here before, so perhaps with the pamphlet we could do it
Mhm.
anywhere, I suppose. We do tend to run across assholes where we go, so
Man,
Oh,
somebody
man.
may be deserving it.
that could be really interesting. I mean, I never thought as a battle cry I'd ever say something like, "You're going to be on my list." It does kind of work.
Gotta make honey out of you.
It's a little more subtle.
just trying to physically wrangle someone here
No, I mean, if
is
we
not.
can we perform the ritual anywhere? Does it have to be done here?
What does a pamphlet say?
The pamphlet seems to suggest that the ritual can be performed anywhere, but obviously wherever it is performed requires the person to be present as part of the ritual. What you let's see, I'm trying to think what would be the appropriate check. It would probably be Arcana, but maybe religion could tie into that to understand a little bit more about, because what it gives is very rudimentary, like light this candle and burn this incense and that sort of thing. It's like very like tab A and slot B and that sort of thing,
God,
without
it's like-
necessarily like it doesn't include the context necessary to know like why this candle, why that incense, how is it actually working. It's more just like the basic instructions, but a religion check might tell you a bit more.
It's
Well-
bad furniture instructions for magic.
That would be a 21 for a religion check,
Okay.
but it would only be a 15 for Arcana.
I've got a candle left over. Was that supposed
Well,
to go
for
somewhere?
for religion, I think that the key bit that stands out to you in thinking about this in the context of, from a religion standpoint, is this idea of preventable, because that's not generally the word that would be used, like, there are lots of religious rituals that involve sacrifices, right? Where a creature is like killed for it, but that's the idea of describing that as preventable is unusual, because it's usually about, the offering up of something permanently, right? Like, that's what a sacrifice is all about. Whereas the preventable focus seems to be more a matter of changing fate in some way. Something that could have gone one way and goes a different way instead. And so the magic focus seems to be on that aspect of it, and not just the idea of giving up something forever.
Interesting. So the crux of this seems to be a change in fate, almost like almost as though they would, like, their luck would change one way to another, like, and not it's just it's different, not something I've ever encountered before.
So less direct. Kind of like the way we've been guided here. Like everything that Praxis has done. That is the only thing that I truly fear in this. It gives me only a moment of pause. And that is not completing this. Puts us potentially at odds with Praxis. At least temporarily.
I mean, and honestly, what do we really know about those 3 travelers?
We know their names. And they were earnest.
Were
Just
they?
one. From what we could tell. More than most, from what I could see.
We
Genuinely,
insight checked the heck out of them too. Like, they were pretty genuine.
genuinely scared. And really wanted to just go home.
Bright-eyed and bushy-tailed.
Right,
Naive.
but even if they go home, maybe they trip crossing over the threshold, hit their heads, and die. Like,
But they didn't. Like, they're still alive, so
And maybe the breaking of this, or the performance of a new ritual, breaks their fate from that preventable death.
or maybe it doesn't.
We can always ensure that they live better.
do we really have that kind of time?
Yeah, we don't. Like, I'm not going to follow these people around and play babysitter for them for the rest of my life.
One thing that's clear from the ritual is that someone needs to die. Like, it's not just a change of fate, it is that particular change. But so I think you're getting a sense that I'm gonna okay. You are feeling a little bit like your mind for a moment, Nira, is being steered. And it's unpleasant. You feel for a moment almost it's as though someone has just like grabbed your head and is physically forcing you to look at something, but just internally. And what it forces you to think on are the diamonds that you carry.
Okay. So, here's a theory, guys. We proceed with this. The ritual stays in place. And we have ways of bringing them back after that's completed. So, They
If
only
we,
die a little bit.
if we can find them,
So
it could be anywhere.
yeah, but no, it has to be somebody who's with us now. So it would have to be two of us.
Or the two that are already marked, and we'd have to find them.
They could be anywhere. If we don't have time to babysit them, we may not have time to find them wherever in the world they might be.
And-
Well, so time is a funny thing, and here, time's not moving, and there, time is moving, but it's out of sync for us. So let's just assume that we have all of this time, right? And we finish up whatever it is we're doing here, and then I can use a locate spell to find these people that we have familiarity with, and we travel to where they are and bring them back.
I'm afraid it has to go deeper than that. I think that we'd have to make a compact. Not all of us may necessarily survive this, or may change our minds. But if all of us are sworn to it, it would have a chance of succeeding. But it's still in the future, and the future is far too uncertain.
Also, what happens if we leave here, even if it's just for like a second? Time starts moving again.
Or, as we've already seen, we forget.
All of the important things that we've been putting off while time doesn't move, they're right back in place. And the queen might not be so generous in bringing us back here again.
We have to go back to the material plane regardless to fetch this book for her.
This feels like yet another bad bargain. This would be the third bad bargain. Piling one on top of the other to try to solve the previous one.
Threes. Everything's in threes. Yeah. So this is the one we should make.
We don't get to make choices between puppies and kittens. These are the kinds of choices that we get.
But here's the thing. We're doing it to get Ket's singing back when we're going to see the dragon anyway, and we're probably going to have to kill it.
But there's no guarantee that anything that we gave up would be restored upon its death.
You're gambling. Like, I know you love to gamble, but you're like gambling with people's lives. And
But
I know you could bring
this-
them back.
This isn't a gamble when could bring them back, like, immediately.
I think Amethyst maybe says, but do we even know they would? I mean, the one died while he was in the Feywild.
Well, that one we can't do anything about at this point.
Well, but I mean, what? How do we? How do their deaths happen?
Are you going to go and kill them?
No, it's
I mean,
something
they
that
have.
would be preventable, but no one prevents it.
But how does it happen?
Yeah,
Fate.
okay. But we have to go and get them and bring them back here so they could die.
No, that ritual is already in place. It hasn't been broken. We would have to break it first to put it on somebody else. Or
But
But you're talking in
if they
circles.
like die from the plague or something, then
Like,
When they couldn't wash
Count.
their hands. What's worse is time is still
what does
passing.
that have to do with it?
well, but time isn't really passing for them, is the thing. So
Time isn't
Oh,
passing.
right.
for us.
they are
right,
probably
right.
safe right now. Like, nothing's going to happen to them because that where they are, time is moving so slowly that it's not passing at all. Right? So think of them as frozen in time because they are not in the Feywild.
Then there's nothing.
Oh, I
we can
thought
do
we
here.
were frozen.
There's nothing we can do here anyway. We cannot kill them because that would not be a preventable death. If they do not die on their own in time, then we will be waiting here forever. So there's nothing we can do here anyway. They cannot die until we leave here.
I think
Unless
Amethyst
they're-
says it could be 2 of us.
That's what I said.
Yeah.
We could bind others to the ritual, yes.
All right. So who wants to die?
If it saves them, I'm always willing to put my life on the line. And I do trust you to bring me back.
Yeah, it can't be me because I'm the only one that can bring people back. So, I think.
Well, actually,
Archie, can you do it?
I can, as a matter of fact.
I think technically Amethyst can. Let's see what she's got.
Yeah, I don't actually have anything prepared, but
If we wait until tomorrow.
raise dead.
I think it's not just getting you undead servants, or is that the other one?
Turn a dead creature to life. Dead no longer than 10 days. They have to be both willing and at liberty to rejoin the body.
Amethyst, I know, doesn't have anything prepared now, but theoretically, I believe she could cast. I think druids do have at least one raise dead spell.
Well, I've got Revivify ready to rock, and it's the cheapest one. So,
Yeah,
and
but so
then,
you have to do that within like a minute.
yeah.
Well, there is a problem. The
Yeah.
death has to be preventable, but not prevented. So you have to build some sort of elaborate thing that I cannot know about
Not
to
necessarily.
kill me.
Not necessarily. For all we know, you walk out of here and make a loud noise and break the rules, and they kill you.
I think that.
I have Revivify too, yeah.
Yeah, I think
But
that since
not
Nira
prepared.
is so excited about this idea, that she should just let Archie bring her back. I mean,
No,
yeah.
Fine. Fine.
I'll
I
do it.
volunteer as tribute then.
No, they need
Yes.
your skills. They need your powers. And if anything goes wrong, they're going to need it doubly so.
I think this
That's
idea
what-
of revisiting the dragon, and kind of putting this on hold has some
Again.
merit.
Again, my worry there is praxis. When we leave here without the ritual completed or without the substance, we will likely have to face her.
She wouldn't do this without having a very good reason for it. That's
But
just
that's the thing. Like,
Probably
we're
not
doing this
mortal.
for Ket. We're not going to have enough left over to give her anyway. Like,
It may
that's
not
what
be,
we keep coming back to.
but
Like,
it
we're
may
doing
not.
this for one. We will have enough to get one.
It may not be that she wants the substance so much as she wants us to get the substance,
Mm-hmm.
and may be angry that we have not, for all the work she's done, I suppose, in shepherding us here.
Yeah, I don't think she wants it.
She probably has another reason to do this. Maybe the 3 that she bound wronged her in some way, and this is her long form of revenge. I don't know. I can't even begin to fathom what she thinks. Guess at it, maybe, but... And she would never answer a direct question, I suspect. Not without my boots, maybe, I don't know.
Bad choice after bad choice.
I'm willing to do it, is all I'm saying.
I'm willing to do it, but I don't think it should be you.
Well, who should it be then?
I feel like at this point, if ever here, she would probably make a sarcastic comment as Amethyst, saying, "Technically, I'm the only one who's done it already."
True
Although,
enough.
no, I guess Nira technically has qualified that now too. So
Should have died already.
I'll do it. I'll do it.
Oh, for crying out loud, I'll do it. Then the people who can bring people back will still be here.
So this is uncomfortable, but I mean,
But you like
it's not permanent, right? Right?
Oh, it's
Yeah, I
true.
don't
I'd love to
know.
be
I think of all those
two.
times I had to heal myself. Archie, promise me that you will bring me back, okay? You have 10 days to bring me back.
I mean, that might be
Oh
weird.
yeah.
Uh, as you're thinking about it, Nira, I think you have a little bit of a pang of insight that sort of makes you think of your astral tether and that little golden segment in it, and you realize just intuitively at some point your death is kind of already owned by somebody.
What was that? You cut out just a little bit. Sorry.
Nira, you recognize that your death is already claimed by another and may not be useful for a spell like this.
Okay. So I couldn't do it anyway.
Well, you don't know what the effect
Makes
would be, at
sense.
least. It's possible that it
Right.
would not be suitable for the spell.
Right. There could be some magical interference in that would make it go wonky. So
Okay, it's fine. I'll do it.
Let's get this over with.
Well, I need a long rest.
You guys have enough time.
how's a short death? Is that better? Like, okay, ritual time.
All right. So
Let's do it.
the ritual is pretty straightforward. I mean, the candle and the incense are right there. It's like it's clearly set aside for this purpose. So it's, if you're just following the instructions, you light the candle. You use the candle to start the incense going. It suggests you're basically drawing a circle around where the incense is, and then a line, like a circle around the people who are being connected to the ritual, and then connect them. And it's an easy ritual, but it seems to be just, it's about the conscious intention of performing it.
Okay.
So
All right.
it's being performed on Cadence and
Alaric.
Yo.
I liked it better when we were strangers. Okay. Right. So I'll finish up said ritual.
Mhm.
Yep.
yeah, and you finish the instructions, and I think both Alaric and Cadence, you kind of feel a little bit of a shiver up your spine, but that's all that happens. You don't just fall over dead or anything.
Yeah, no, fates have changed. Now, I suppose I better find my death somewhere. Nobody try to stop me, because that would be
Where's-
important.
Who's
Oh,
got
boy.
who's got the eyes and the crystal? Archie's got
They're
the
in
crystal.
I've got the crystal.
The crystal is in the backpack, a regular backpack, and the eyes are in the bag of holding that I have.
I will give you the axe, my boots, and the cloak. I'm not gonna eat
Archie,
them.
will you hold
Yeah.
my bow, please?
Yeah.
And the dagger, and the dagger, and the dagger, another dagger.
Just a pile of stuff on the floor.
Oh, and don't put this in a pocket somewhere, and I'll hand you the portable hole.
Ah,
That would be bad. Right. I haven't felt this light for a while. It'll take a while for the connections to fade. I don't know if you'll be able to tell when it's done. I guess the only thing you can really do is send me a message and see if it's not responded to.
I have to stay close to y'all because revivify. You have to have been. I
yeah,
think
the
it's
whole
a minute
we
is
need
all you get.
bodies.
Well, Archie can do it in 10 days, so.
It does make it awkward.
I mean, I can do revivify as well. I mean, but I don't have anything prepared. Like I said, I need a long rest.
All right.
Oh,
Then
we had a long rest at the end of our last session, remember?
Well, but I don't
But
know.
I didn't
Yeah.
prepare any
Oh,
resurrection
that's right.
anything.
Okay, yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
So all
make-
I've
Yeah.
got prepared is revivify.
I'll make it easier for you. We're on a very high mountain, and you can fly. So long as you do not try to prevent it, the fall should kill me.
Why don't you just go out there and yell or something? And I won't
Because that could bring ruin on everything here, and I wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
Nor do I want to
that's-
disrespect this place.
Yeah, I'm going outside. I'm gonna go get some peace and quiet from all this discussion.
All right. Well, I gotta follow y'all at I guess at a distance.
Dude,
Yeah, I
give me
kind
some
of think we
space.
should all go like camp or something.
Why put it off?
Feels weird.
Oh, Lark, you just want to go outside and fight each other to the death?
I mean, that's largely not preventable. You'll probably take me out
That's
there if you-
true.
For all we know, you
I don't
guys will
know.
walk out the
Sounds
door and
really
trip and fall.
painful.
Come on.
Let's not
Let's
cause
go.
ruin at the moment of our almost success.
Okay.
I need a drink.
I'm going outside.
The mountainside's not far. It won't last long,
That's preventable.
I hate
Exactly.
this a lot.
as long as they don't prevent it. I just hope I don't survive.
Yeah, that'd suck.
Oh.
Imagine all the pain you'll be in.
It's a long walk back up.
As you are heading back out the front of the hive, at the head of the road there that led to it, as you emerge, there's a little table sitting there with a little silver tray, and there are 2 pills on it.
Perfect.
Seems strangely convenient.
Wait. Hold on one second. Okay. Only takes one action. Okay, you're good.
All right.
Go ahead. Oh gosh, this is really disturbing, y'all.
Yeah, I was just kind of thinking, it's like I want to just do quick, meta check-in and make sure everyone's feeling okay, because obviously, like, we're dealing with some subject matter that could be really upsetting. So I just want to, if anyone's really feeling freaked out about it, we can talk about that and
I'm good.
No.
I think I brought up the idea, so I don't think I have
Yeah, I mentioned it too.
any.
Yep. Well,
No, but it's a serious, heavy subject matter for sure. So
Oh yeah.
definitely want to be respectful.
And either way, either this works and I was finally right for once, or this doesn't work and you can hold it over me forever.
well,
right.
Lark,
Let's
it's
not
been a
dwell.
pleasure.
It has been. I wish I knew you better, and hopefully I'll get a chance to. To whatever
Hope
comes
you have
next.
a good death.
I don't know what this pill has in it. It might not even work.
That would definitely be the last thing a Lark said.
Yeah. And then just take it, pop it. Kind of wish I had some beer.
um,
But I'm not wishing for beer again. Just making that clear to the universe.
I don't have that hand anymore.
the pill doesn't really taste like anything. There's no immediate effect, but over the next few minutes, you kind of just start feeling sort of sleepy.
Now, I would have made enough time to unattune from my gear. I had to feel
Okay.
that was unattuned.
Oh,
because
okay,
I-
yeah.
Because I have immunity to
You would
poison.
just come right
Yeah.
back. Yeah.
Well, it wouldn't affect me. No, I have to be vulnerable. And I'll turn my back to the rest of them so they don't see any expressions I might make.
All right.
I just sit down.
That would have been a smart idea. Topple over.
All right. So, both Cadence and Alaric just kind of start feeling, sleepier and eyelids heavy. And then I think you both find yourself kind of floating, and you can see each other, but you're back in the astral sea, and you look around and you're feeling like you're floating. You're just in the silvery mist, but you see each other, except you realize that you're slightly translucent, and you're looking at one another, and you just hear a voice say, sometimes you have to be willing to give up everything for what you believe in. But it doesn't hurt to have a safety net, does it? And then you both find yourself jolted awake, because I'm going to go ahead and just presume that you are in fact casting Revivify on them
Yes.
as soon as they
Twice.
Yeah.
Yeah, they can stay dead. No.
At least for a day. Like, I'm sure. Oh, wait,
Yeah.
it's only 10 minutes. Oh, well, that wouldn't work.
And she's not going to show it, but she is definitely holding her breath until they are like clearly awake and
So basically, what from the outside you saw is that they both just kind of lay down and seems to go to sleep, but then they just kind of stopped breathing. And after a moment, you said, "Okay, that's got to count, right?" Okay, how long does it have to be? Is this it? You know, but you eventually you cast. Or you're casting it both times, Nira.
yeah, unless Archie, were you taking one?
I
or-
don't have it
no.
How long is casting
prepared,
time?
so
It's one action,
it's-
so
yeah.
Okay. It doesn't have like a minute or anything.
That'd be funny. if we
no, I
said
looked.
before.
I checked.
Super
I
quick.
checked
Yeah.
to make sure.
Do make sure you're marking off the the appropriate diamonds that are the cost is real.
Yeah, Archie, you've got that, or Chooch. Chooch has the
Yeah.
the
Yeah. So
list
yeah,
of
just
stuff,
make sure
so-
you're marking that off. But the revivify works. Does revivify bring them back to 1 hit point? I think.
1 hit point. Yeah.
Yeah. So both Alaric and Cadence, you find yourself kind of coming awake. You feel terrible. It's the worst hangover ever. But you are back there on the mountainside with your friends who are looking down at you with concern.
It was kind of peaceful. Except for Praxis's voice. That sucked.
It was all right. She made a good point.
Yeah, but I'm just tired of her making points.
Oh. Okay, so I'm going to cast because I can't have him walking around like that.
I think Amethyst can cast heal on.
Yeah, that's what I was about to.
Yeah.
That'll give somebody 70. So,
She'll cast it on Cadence.
all right. Alaric, you can take yourself back to 70 hit points. Actually, I have it set up so that I could do it at level 8 if I wanted to. 7th level. Hold on.
So I get 70 back?
Yeah, that's the basic.
Okay.
So you would be at 71.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. All right, Alaric, you're at 71 too.
Did it work?
We have to go back in to see.
All right.
Let's hope so, because that was expensive.
Yeah, I wish I'd thought of sitting down. That would have made a lot more sense.
Yeah.
I'll take my boots back at least.
I'll take my bow.
You guys can have all of your stuff.
I just gave him my bow. I have to reattune to it. So.
I was just suddenly thinking of the Lord of the Rings scene is like, and you can have your bow
your bow.
and your axe and yeah.
Get back out there, Sparky.
All of your daggers.
And all of your daggers.
I kept
Okay.
it.
So, heading back in, everybody shh.
All right. Let's hope this worked. Uh-oh. Did something wrong with Twitch?
Uh-oh. Is it? I mean, my thing still says it's
Yeah, I see it too.
seems
No.
like it's
Prince
going-
Justin said something about Twitch,
Oh.
so.
I think he was having trouble last week too,
Yeah.
wasn't he?
Oh, okay.
Hopefully just refreshing will help. But in any event, the stream is still going live by my display here. So you head back in, and the the vassal is there, just sort of waiting patiently, and says,
Ask him about the tally now.
Have the 2 deaths been accounted for now?
They lift up a pair of spectacles that are compound lenses on them, like this, a whole bunch of little different lenses. They'll look at you and just say, "That seems to be in order. The panacea, then."
Was it the ailment? Was that the panacea for everything?
Yeah, it
The
was the
No, the
healing.
panacea
panacea was the
is the
healing.
cure for ailments.
Okay. Yes.
The breaths, the eyes.
I'll take out
But-
the crystal.
Yeah. And the from the bag of holding, the 3 eyes.
This vassal indicates that you should hold them, but then directs you, to go sort of back into the next room and says, "You will travel the tunnels to the topmost layer, and there you will find the Thriae. You will find that they already know what you seek. Hand the ingredients to them when asked. And if you wish best results, avoid asking for extras."
Understood. I will relay that to my companions.
Really
So-
want to make a joke right now.
Maybe once we're outside.
So you make your way through the tunnel to the back, and you find that this tunnel starts to curve around upwards, and it's this sort of winding path that is actually a little bit difficult to traverse in some places. You realize that, of course, most of the people who do so are probably abeles who can fly, but you're not unable to traverse them. It just requires climbing at a few points. You pass through several other chambers where you see other vassals doing various sort of domestic tasks, cleaning. There's one that seems to be preparing some sort of a meal. But as you continue upwards to the upper level, you begin hearing a muttering sound, and you realize it is 3 voices that are it's all sort of in various buzzings and hissing and clicking sounds, but it sounds like the muttering of a mad woman on the street, someone who rants to themselves, that can't communicate what has them so agitated, and yet they can't help but speak it. And there are 3 voices that seem to be doing that with one another in a conversation. You pass up through into that tunnel, and you see 3 of the large queen abeles, who are not glamorous in the way the one you met at the ball was. Instead, in fact, they look tired. They look exhausted. But the 3 of them are around sort of a central basin, hexagonal, and they are actually kind of constantly moving in circles around it, peering in and then looking away, and then occasionally fretting with their face in their hands, and they're kind of just in constant motion. And here and there on the sides of the room, you see vassals occasionally like gently step into, like if one of them was about to sort of reel into the wall, just kind of protects them a little bit. And they're doing their thing. But as you reach into that room, one of the vassals says, "Stand there."
Said to stand there. So
There's basically just a space where it's kind of clear. But as you see the queens start to act slightly more in sync with one another, you can hear their voices starting to almost form some kind of a harmony with one another rather than being sort of three individual, uh, strains. There's sort of a resonance being created, and this droning underneath it, you feel that it doesn't make you fall asleep, but you feel it sort of working on your brain. Like it's just kind of like when you have you get goosebumps or the hair on the back of your neck stands on end. It's that kind of feeling. You feel that this buzzing sound is, you're not so much hearing it with your ears as much as it makes, what it feels like is nothing more. It feels like space is vibrating around you, like the entire resonant frequency of everything around you, including your own body, is starting to vibrate with this buzzing. It's not even necessarily unpleasant, but it is strange. And you see them circling a little faster, and at a certain point, one of the vassals, who's holding the eyes and who's holding the crystal and so on.
I'm holding the crystal, I guess. So I had it.
Did you take the bag of holding back, Cadence?
Yeah.
So you've got the eyes?
Yep.
At certain point, the vassal gestures to you to kind of just goes like this, like gesturing, holding them up. I assume you're doing that, Cadence?
Yeah.
Okay. So as each of these queens passes, each one of them seizes one of these eyes out of your hands and splashes it into this central basin that they're circling around, and it swirls and pools and smoke drifts up out of it. And you feel like, so each of them in turn grabs one until all three have been put in there, and all of you start to feel like even underneath this droning sound, you're starting to sense that it's not just a vibration, it is in fact the vibration. It starts to, you feel like you're hallucinating because you're starting to realize that this vibration feels like what the world is made of, and that somehow you're only now sensing it in its true form. And then the vassal points to you, Archie, with the crystal and gestures to hold it up. And at this point, each of the queens, as they pass by, just sort of trails their hand along the crystal, and one of the colors swirls up out of it onto their hand and then pours into the basin. And in turn, each of them takes one color and puts it into the basin. And as this buzz gets even more intense, you start to feel like you can actually see through solid matter. You can see through the walls, the floor, your own hand, because you realize in so much of what you are is actually empty space. And it's really just all of these tiny little things vibrating. And that's what the world, that's what the universe is this vibration at the heart of it. And somehow that vibration just gets confused sometimes into thinking that it's something more than that, but really it's the vibration. The vibration is the pattern that forms the basis of all of existence. And you can see that now. And yet you are also still aware of your physical bodies. And at this point, you feel sort of a strange howling presence as there's three sort of little mists of smoke that start swirling above the basin, and then and you realize that this pattern of vibration that is everything, you realize that can be controlled. If someone knew how, they could change that vibration and the entire universe would change around it. And in fact, you feel like in the legend lore you learned about the creation of the universe, these forces of pure law and these forces of pure chaos, that this sound is in fact how they did it. That manipulating this vibration is how the world and the universe was created and everything about it. And through this vibration, you can see that you could know anything you wanted if you just knew the right place to look, because this sound is everything. It is the underlying basis of your entire reality. And you are just there in that knowledge for a moment. Then eventually, the queens start a strange dance where they are now themselves twirling around, as, almost pirouetting as they circle this basin. And then their enormous wings start to buzz, and they circle, and it continues above this basin. And then each of them dives into it one at a time until it seemed like this basin is not big enough for even one of them to fit inside. But you can see, with this vibration, you can see that the size of the container means nothing, really. It's just about understanding the vibration and moving with it in the right way. Anything can happen. Any knowledge can be yours. It's just about understanding that, accepting it, and being with that sound. But then things start to get a little blurry. That perfect vibration that's so clear is starting to get a little staticky, a little bit of interference. You realize all of this perfect knowledge, you could know anything. It's just but it's what you could see it a minute ago. It's right there. But wait, what? But wait, where are you? Where? And you realize that you're still standing there in that spot, and the queens are still circulating this basin, and the drone is fading. And then they stop. And each of the queens, in turn, around this basin, just lays down. And you can see that they're still breathing, but they've just laid down like they're going to sleep. And the vassal walks over to the basin and has this big golden sort of ladle with a long, like 3-foot handle. Lowers it into the basin. And then brings it up with, filled with some liquid that another vassal holds out a small glass vial. And just a few drops. Doop, doop, poured in. Cork. And they go over and they have the vial, and they hand it to Nira, who had been the one talking the most.
I will take it. I'm not really sure what to say, though, so just kind of nod silently.
And the vassal sort of nods in return and then waits for a moment. And then kind of gives you a, like, all right, you can go now gesture.
Do we tip?
I'm just gonna do one of these to my companions and let's go. We'll walk out.
All right.
Or I'll walk out. Hope they follow.
Yes.
Kind of stunned.
Up out.
All right. So you all kind of make your way out through the tunnel. You're all still feeling a little disoriented from that whole experience, but certainly able to control yourselves, and you make your way out. You feel like your own breathing sounds very loud, like even just you were aware certainly before of being quiet, but you certainly feel now almost like every little sound you make makes it even harder to hear what lingers of that that perfect vibration. Like even whatever little amount is left, every time you hear some other sound, it's just a little bit further away. But then you make your way back down to the next level, and the first level, and you're back out front at that front sort of reception area, and the vassal there says, "I hope that you find that this was worth it for you."
So do I. Thank you. We'll continue out.
Yeah.
Alark, maybe because he was recently dead, or probably what he just saw is pretty dopey at this point. Kind of not really paying much attention to anything.
Right. So you head on outside. The mountain air is kind of bracing after the stillness inside the hive. But you emerge, and you have this little vial that you look inside, and it seems to contain just a little bit of what looks like honey.
I have a vague idea of what Praxis was trying to say. I don't know how this came to exist. I don't know why this came to exist. I don't know if it should exist. But I'm amazed that it does. I don't know what this is.
Well, whenever Ket gets back, I guess we'll find out.
I think may know what it is, and we need to keep that hidden because price.
It's
Don't come cheap.
pure potential, I think. Siphoned and concentrated like a good brew, but so much more. I think I'm more convinced this place shouldn't exist.
I'm going to give the vial to Cadence.
Thank you. I just put it in my little pouch pocket.
All right. So, while you're standing there, there's a strange moment where you realize that although in this place you have the areas where there is, bright day, you never quite see the sun. But for a moment you have this optical illusion where it seems like you do, but it's coming closer. Then you realize it's actually just some strange little mote of light that is kind of floating down towards you, almost just like a little mote of dust. but as it gets near you, it sort of flashes with a voice of just saying, "So then, errand complete? I do have another job for you after all."
Just to be clear, which voice is that?
That's
Oh,
that's
Salomonia, I'm
Yeah, yeah.
guessing.
yeah.
I mean, we've seen a bunch of different bright lights, and they all talk to us. So
Uh-huh.
I know that voice.
Yeah. So I think that's actually where we'll leave it for tonight.
All right.
So,
Told you that would be easy.
I
So simple.
yeah. I do want to, as we finish, like certainly with you guys, but also just like anyone listening or watching. I mean, I know that like some of what some of what went on there was a little intense. So I hope that anyone's doing okay with that. I don't know if we need to like maybe put a content warning on the episode or something like that, but
might be not a bad
Yeah, that
idea.
might be wise.
yeah.
Yeah, it could be sensitive to some folks. So.
Yeah, I just certainly the intent, of course, is that it is intense, but I hope that it stays intense within the context of a story that's ultimately enjoyable and not something that would cause anyone like sincere personal distress.
Yep.
Huh? Okay. So I think with that, my voice is going to start to give out on me again. So I'm going to go ahead and we'll leave it there. But we'll be back next week for more adventure on so many
So
levels.
many
And
levels.
Levels.
Man levels.